Wait, how did it make you feel?
Obviously pissed off, like I felt disrespected.
Do you think you should be sat on a plane talking to a boy similar age to you? Probably not.
The other side of it is if you would spend time with her, maybe she wouldn't have got that drunk with strangers and you could have had a
Absolutely.
I said this before and I'll say it again. The villains for this season are going to be, on the women's side, it's going to be Julia Ruth and Lee. And sadly, they are playing into that narrative because they cannot keep their opinions to themselves. The audacity and the idea that you have, Lee having a go at Leisha just because her partner finds her attractive doesn't make sense. And Julia Ruth, at times, her opinion doesn't always need to be expressed. She needs to take a back seat and focus more on her connection. Unless she's doing this for the clout, that way she has things to answer when she leaves the show. I don't understand why she's not focusing on her relationship because we barely got to hear about it. And then, oh my God, Leisha. I don't understand why she behaved the way she did on the flight, given how much of a fuss she was making about this man being attracted to her. And then she goes and she pulls such a stunt. It's really sad and really devastating on her part because now she has to sort of have other people defend her. And personally, kudos to Ashley. Ashley has shown the man that he is. He was the only guy who stepped up for her and everybody else turned on him. But at least he showed that he's not always so ignorant or of women's plight, but he's there, he's protective, he's supportive. So I love this for him. Anyway, hey there, thanks for stopping by to go Valerie. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, click the like button, turn on the notification bell for when I upload new videos, and definitely leave a comment. In this episode, I'll be reviewing Married at First Sight UK, Season 10, Episode 16. So you have the couples, they're getting ready for the third dinner party. Everybody's excited. They're in a very good space. You have Davide and Kia. Kia's holding a birthday party, a mini party for Davide because it's his birthday. They really are in a very happy space. We've barely heard about them as a couple. You have Dean and Sarah. Dean and Sarah are in this space whereby Dean is starting to reflect on his connection because he's been guilt-tripped into supporting this girl who really doesn't like him. And because he's very protective over her, he is having to endure certain things that he shouldn't be. And I don't understand why he doesn't stand up for himself. Because he's saying, my friend reminded me that I'm here for myself, not just for Sarah, and I shouldn't allow someone to disrespect me. And kudos to him. If he's going to champion, if he's there to learn and to grow and champion for himself, then he needs to remember that he can't always be Sarah's protector because it's more or less him sort of protecting the person that is causing him the most pain in this experiment. Nellie and Stephen, well, they are saying, they're in this sort of awkward space because her family has come around. They have called Stephen out because it was unacceptable. They have been intimate. And so with Stephen is complaining that she is too affectionate. And it's like, this guy doesn't like her because if he really liked her, he wouldn't be counting, okay, we've held hands 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 seconds. That's enough. Because he's saying, I hope she doesn't, put on too much PDA when we are at the dinner party with the other couples. And it's like, why are you worried if she displays too much affection? You should be wanting her to do that unless you've got your eye on somebody else or unless you've got a narrative that you're aiming for and you don't want her to go against that, then maybe that makes sense. Maeve and Joe, they are saying they're starting to talk about life after the experiment. They should have started talking about life after the experiment. And I think it's very iffy because when she brought up the fact that this man said he's going to move up north to be with her since she has a son, he said, well, it's going to be a long time until we get there, which tells you that he was quick to say, I love you, but he's not quick to commit himself to that I love you that is expressed. So I don't know whether she's really taking into consideration that this man might just be all lip service and not mean every single thing that he's saying. Hopefully she puts a break on the love part and focuses more on growing that connection to see if this man is ideal to have in her child's life. Devani and Julia Ruth. Julia Ruth is a stunning girl. I'm not going to take that from her. But I don't know what's happened from the night after the wedding up until now, because there's been one problem after another and it barely makes sense. We heard the complaining, oh, he's yelling, he's shouting. They've said they've had a lot of stress in the past week. Kudos to Devani's cousin for calling her out and asking her, why are you here? Are you here because you want a partner, or are you here for something else because you're becoming nitpicky? I feel like it's more for the attention. She wants to be on camera more, and she knows the more sort of strife they have, the more camera time they're going to get. And this is obviously the producer's intention, is to tell a story. So if there's going to be chaos, they're going to spend more time with you. If there's no chaos, they're moving on to the next couple. We really didn't hear a conversation. We didn't hear a resolution to whatever issues they were having as a couple. April and Leo, they've moved into their apartment. They're in a very happy space. Their only issue, there is physical intimacy, there is a spark. The problem is the communication. And as I said yesterday, and I'll say it again, this man, I think, doesn't want to say anything or do anything that will put her off. And this is why he's trying to mind his P's and Q's. And she has to take him away from the camera and have a conversation with him and see where he stands. And hopefully that will allow them to grow. Abigail and John, they moved into their apartment. They were very happy. They were very giddy. They had nothing to say. And we barely get to see them because they seem to be getting along very well. Then we have Reiss and Leisha. Oh my God. Leisha, I expected her to still be pushing for a connection. So to hear about the incident on the flight is really disheartening, because apparently on the flight she was drinking a lot of wine, and Reiss has made a point to stress that she drank a lot of wine on this flight. She became so intoxicated she vomited on herself. After vomiting on herself, she then turned up to Reiss. I don't know what she expected him to do. Whether she expected him to take her to the toilet and change her clothes for her, or whatever she expected, I don't get it. So it seems she took clothes to go and change and then didn't come back for over an hour, because Reiss says he was watching a movie and she never came back. And then when he looked for her, realized that she was talking to some other guy. And it's like, I don't know. I really don't know, because it makes you question, what were you talking to somebody about for an hour on a flight? There's turbulence and stuff. What are you talking about? That could be, for some places, it could be a third of your journey. So what were you talking about that was so entertaining and exciting? I feel like she did it more for the attention, because he didn't respond when she was intoxicated. So she was trying to wind him up, and sadly, this has backfired. Leah and Lee, they were talking about, their Meet the Family, and the fact that, Leah and Lee have agreed that they're going to move on from Rebecca because she's a non-issue. They feel like they're in a good space. They then have a visit from Reiss and Leisha, and immediately Lee is back on she's flirting, she's being overly familiar, I don't like it, why is she doing this? And it's like, oh my God, why are we here? There's no need for this. You can't bubble wrap your partner. You can't be judging every single thing that they do and say they're flirting. Has she flirted with you? Is that why you think she's flirting? Or you haven't yet seen her flirt, so anything she does, you think it's her flirting? I didn't get the whole commotion and why. I think that was the beginning of whatever took place at the dinner party, because Leah's reaction to Leisha caused whatever, cascading thingy that happened at the dinner party. I hope you get what I mean. First up was Maeve and Joe. They seem very giddy, very excited. They've already told each other they love each other, so they're in a happy space. Later on, they had a conversation with someone, and they were sort of saying that, our friends were questioning us, what's going to happen after the experiment? Have we discussed where we're going and what we're going to do? And it's like, anyone with a child, that would be one of the first questions that you'd be asking your partner. So if we do work out, do you see yourself moving up to me, or do you want me to move down to you? That is something that she should have asked right off the jump before saying I love you. Next up is Julia Ruth and Devani. They're in a very happy space. They have a conversation with Maeve and Joe, and sort of say that they were opening up old wounds during their conversations, and so there was a bit of tension there. And it's like, I don't understand it. I think it's more for the drama than anything. Next up, we have Sarah and Dean. Sarah evaded the questions when she was asked, how are the two of you going? How was your Meet the Family? She swerved that like the Matrix. Nelly and Stephen were the next couple to come in, and Stephen is at his wit's end. He's at his wit's end. I think he only doesn't want to look like a bad guy because of maybe the difference in ethnicity, and he knows you'll get a lot of backlash, but he's checked out of that marriage. He really has checked out, and he has no remorse for swearing at his wife, as far as I'm concerned. Next up was Leah and Lee. they seem to be in a very well, they seemed to be okay up until they walked in, and then Lee has got into her feelings because she feels like, Leisha is Lee's type because they told everyone that there was a new couple coming in. They were followed in by Reiss and Leisha. Reiss and Leisha, they seem to be in this sort of awkward space whereby they had this incident on the flight home that has carried on till the apartment, and now they're having to come to the dinner party. So when they were speaking to the other couples, they were talking. Well, Reiss was complaining to the guys that after 2 days she was asking me, "Are you falling for me?" And everybody was like, "What does she mean?" Even when Leisha spoke to the girls and said, I asked him, "Are you falling in love with me or falling for me?" Everybody was like, "Seriously, why would you ask that? That's silly. It's only been a couple of days. You can't ask someone who you barely know whether they're falling for you. If you were to ask me, I would have run away." That's what Nelly said. And I was like, oh, at least everyone is singing on the same page as this man. You then had Reese tell the guys about the incident on the flight, and people had their backs up. On her part, Leisha was sitting with Leah. They were having a conversation. Suddenly, Lee's in her feelings because she thinks that Leah is becoming overly familiar. And for experts to agree with that, maybe I'm not good at picking up someone flirting. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think Lee needs to regulate herself and not blame somebody, her actions on somebody else, or her feelings on somebody else. Davide and Key, they seemed very giddy and very excited. They're always very happy. They're one of the happier couples. So they walked in, they were very flirty and happy. Rebecca and Bailey, we barely get to see about this couple. We barely get to see anything. So even if they work out, I wouldn't know their story because we barely get to see. Apparently, they're called the mommy and daddy of the group. And I think this is a bad title because everyone is always fighting for this. You had Abigail and John walk in. The interesting thing was every time a couple walked in, the excitement and Sarah's face and her grin. When she saw Reese, the excitement on her face, Reese, I don't think will put up with her nonsense. So she's wasting her time even though he's got tattoos. When she saw John, she was giddy, she was smiley. And I don't think John has got time for her because he is smitten with his wife. Grace and Ashley then walked in. Well, Grace walked in on her own, and everyone was shocked because they couldn't understand why she was coming in on her own. And then Ashley immediately ran in afterwards, and they realized that, oh, they were just playing, with everyone. So that was really cute to see. You then had Leisha and Sarah sit down for a conversation. And Leisha was sort of asking Sarah, so where do you stand? What's going on? You had Sarah say, no, there's no attraction. We're moving very slow. And it's like, Sarah is trying to suss out all the other wives to see where she can slot in. I don't think she wants to stay with Reese because she wants to stay with Reese. I think she wants to stay with Reese until she finds her perfect match in the experiment that she'll stay with until the very end. So her speaking to Leisha, for me, it seemed like, it was research, her, carrying out an ops research and seeing what's going on in the other couple to see whether she can squeeze herself in. Leah and Leisha sat down for a conversation and they were talking about types and qualities that they look for in a partner. And they really seem to be getting along very well. Suddenly you have Lee complaining that, Leah is being overly familiar. She doesn't like it. She doesn't like how they're being sort of flirty. She's very feeling some type of way. So she was complaining to April. And then Reese is frustrated. He's in on his own little corner and it's like, I don't get it. I really don't understand why we have to go through this back and forth. So everybody then moved to the dining table for the dinner. You had Lee and Leah having this back and forth because Leah felt some type of way. She said that she didn't want to flirt with anyone. She felt like, Leah was making inappropriate comments and she was pushing boundaries. I don't get it. I really don't get it. You don't like this person. She's not your type. You haven't done anything to show that you're romantically interested in them. When somebody else shows them interest, suddenly you're in your feelings because you say that shows you've got feelings. Feelings for what? Feelings for what? I feel like she's replaying her old trauma from former relationships on this connection. And Leah is entitled to do what's in her best interest. If she wants to flirt with somebody else, good for her. I think Leah is pushing it at times and doing it overly just to sort of provoke a reaction. I agree with the experts on that. You then had Kia carry out a toast. He toasted Davide because it was Davide's birthday. He said he's smitten. He doesn't know where this man has come from, but he really likes him. And then he toasted the new couples. And it's like, oh, okay. I love that for them. I really do. I hope everyone is happy and they're settled in their own couples. Obviously, when the couples walked in, you had Leisha and Reiss having a back and forth because Leisha wanted Reiss to hold her hand because everybody else is holding hands. And it's like, it shouldn't be performative. You should hold your hand because he wants to, not because he's doing that for the attention from everybody else. So I didn't get why she wanted to throw a fit. Sarah was upset because she felt like everybody else is progressing, but they are yet to develop a spark. Julia Ruth and Devani had a conversation with Nelly and Stephen and sort of asked them, how are you? Where are you now? Are you back in your happy space? And Nelly was saying, I wish you could go back to the honeymoon. And Stephen was saying, because of everything else that has happened, we can't go back to where we were during the honeymoon. We can only move on. And personally, they could move on if she was in a couple with someone who really likes her. I think Stephen has checked out. I think he doesn't like his partner and is just there just to be performative and to be on TV. You had Abigail and John, she was asked, how was your honeymoon? What did you like about your honeymoon? She said, she enjoyed spending time with this man because they really seem to get along very well. And he really seems to be the man that she asked for. So at the moment, any moment she gets to spend with him, they're amazing. I love it because it seems Abigail is totally different from her mom. I would have expected her to be like her mom, but she seems to be the complete opposite. Maybe that's why her mom is always worried about her. But I really love their connection and where they're going, and I really hope that they do very well. So you had this conversation between Reiss and Leisha. And Leisha is saying, I know you're upset about what I did on the flight, but I'm trying not to say or do anything that will push you away. And it's like, girl, you're speaking for an hour with somebody who will push him away. You know the person you're dealing with. Yes, you're just getting to know him, you're knowing his triggers and whatever. Maybe be more mindful, be more sort of cautious of the things that you say and you do. So the honesty box comes out soon after this conversation, and the first question is given to Leisha and Reiss. So they are to read the card, and then the rest of the group gives their opinion. So their question was, you've all heard about what happened on the journey home. Are you team Leisha or team Reiss? The majority said they're team Reiss. And so you had Leisha sort of feeling some type of way because she doesn't know these people and they're already forming opinions about her. And it's like, maybe you should have been mindful of that. Leisha is sort of was just there dumbfounded. And then you had Lee. I think she's been looking for an excuse for something to come after this woman on, because she said, you can't complain if he's shutting down and having his backup. That why are you doing that when you know that you created this sort of cascade of action? So if you started something and he is just reacting to that, you are not justified to sort of say, why are you shutting down? You have to bear with it and sort of move on from that. And it's like, Lee, this is not your space. You are in a couple with somebody else and you're barely acknowledging their feelings, but you have opinions about somebody else's relationship. Kudos to Ashley, because you said to them, the two of you don't know one another and you're still getting to learn one another. So it's important that in your learning one another, be respectful of one another. And then he asked Leisha that, do you think you did something wrong? Leisha was all over the place, in my opinion. She was all over the place. You had Julia Ruth offer her opinion, and I'm wanting to sit next to her and pinch her to tell her to say, please keep quiet. You don't want to be the villain in this story because everyone is going to turn on you. So when Ashley then tried to defend her and said, maybe the reason why she spent an hour with this guy is because you, Reiss, were not paying her attention, everybody attacked him. Yeah, maybe it doesn't make sense, but I think he was just trying to be the devil's advocate. Kudos to April as well, because she then stepped up and said, you people are strangers to her. She is married to strangers. She's coming to a group of strangers. Let us please be mindful of that, and let us not sort of nail her on the cross just because of one mistake that she made. Let us give her an opportunity to redeem herself. This was like, oh, I love that. I think that's good. Next up was Grace. Grace asked, what's one thing you think each of us need to do differently to help our marriage? And this part, Julia Ruth was right. This part, I think if she's got a positive insight to give, then she needs to give it and quickly keep quiet, because otherwise this is going to turn on her. Because she said to Grace, sometimes you need to sit back and not attack Ashley when he does something nice. Don't question it. Trust Ashley and that he has your best interest at heart. And I'm happy that Ashley said, I will always have your back. I will never do anything malicious. I think Ashley is misunderstood to some extent. I think he's misunderstood. I think he's a people pleaser, and I think he's got these values that he's been raised with. And so he tries to sort of use that as a framework to people please. And if he wasn't a people pleaser, he would have left that woman week one. But at least he's tried to make it work. And now she's realizing, I think everyone telling her that, girl, you're sitting on a gold mine and you're messing it about, is why Grace is starting to open up, because she actually asked him for a kiss. And he was taken aback and he said, really, right now? And she said, yeah. And so they kissed. Even the experts were surprised. Everyone was cheering for them. I loved it. I thought that was sweet. Lastly, we had Dean and Sarah. Dean, do you really think we have a future together? If not, why? Then you had Leah speak up, because Leah has already said this to Dean, and she said, you need to make sure that you're prioritizing yourself, because you are on your own journey. Sarah's on her own journey. So don't, put everything into protecting Sarah and not protecting yourself. Which we've all seen him do, though, because whatever Sarah says, he goes with it just because he wants her to like him. So if she says jump, he jumps, and then he asks her, was that high enough? And she says no, and he jumps again until she says it's high enough. That's the impression that I got. Sarah on her part said there's no spark, there's no sign of romance. And Dean was saying, I'm doing everything within my power to grow this. What I feel is Sarah stayed in the experiment because she wanted to see who else was coming in. She wanted to see if she could sort of steal them from their partner. Her chances, if she had her own sort of opportunity to do so, I think she would have stolen Joe, or she would have stolen Reiss, or she would have stolen John. I don't think she would go after Bailey. I think those people are the people that should have stolen, because they seem more along her type, and she must be questioning why the experts gave her the person they gave her. For her to go and say, I don't think I have much more to give. Girl, you haven't had much more to give from the moment you walked down the aisle and saw this man, so it's nothing new. I can't wait for them to say leave, because I think Dean needs to go home and do some work on himself. It seems he is working out. It seems someone from the experiment has been helping him sort of with his weight loss and whatever. I love this for him. Hopefully he finds this person in the real world. Anyway, thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Click on the link in my video to watch my review from episode 15. Bye everyone.